An earned income revenue model can be a great option for nonprofit fundraising. So in my last video just before this, I talked about how to know if an earned income model could be a good fit for your nonprofit organization. In this video, I'm going to talk through the steps to launch an earned income strategy if you've decided that that is the best course of action for your organization. Welcome back. My name is Amber Melanie Smith, and I'm a nonprofit founder and executive director who makes these videos here on YouTube all about helping people make an impact, especially through starting and running a successful nonprofit, social enterprise organization, or socially conscious business. As always, I hope that you find this video is useful and helpful to you. Don't forget to give it a like and let YouTube know that you liked this video. Also, I have a website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have some online courses and resources all about starting a nonprofit and developing a sustainable fundraising plan that might be able to help you out. So feel free to go check those out too. All right, let's get into this topic. As I mentioned before, if you missed my last video on this topic, I do recommend that you go check that out and watch it before this one, as it will provide a helpful lead-in to lay the foundation for this topic. In this video, once again, I'm going to talk through the actual steps to launch an earned income strategy to fundraise for your organization once you've determined that it is indeed a good fit for your particular mission as a nonprofit. So let's jump right in. Step one of launching a successful earned income strategy is hopefully what you accomplished by watching my last video, which is the whole process of assessing if it's a good fit. So this is where you are doing some market research, you are looking at your organization's capacity, your organization's mission, etc., etc. So assuming that you have already done that step, congratulations, you're already a part of the way through the process of launching an earned income model. So let's skip right ahead to step two, and that is identifying your actual earned income strategy ideas. So I talked about some examples of earned income models in my last video, but to recap, earned income is when you are selling products or services that align with your organization's mission and further that mission. So it could be anything from doing paid trainings or workshops, or renting out your facility if you have one of those as an organization. It could be selling specific products or goods that relate to your organization's mission, like food or apparel or equipment, etc. It could be a lot of different things, but it's just like you're starting a little miniature business inside your nonprofit that is owned by your nonprofit organization. But the big question is, how do you hone in on the specific ideas that are going to be the best for your organization? So let's talk through a couple of strategies to do just that. A sort of simple way to start thinking through some potential earned income model ideas for your nonprofit could be to take a look at your existing and planned future programming. So this could be small or large or medium-sized programs that your organization has on its sort of back burner or wish list, or perhaps ideas that you've thought of to expand your existing programming. And you want to look at all of these program ideas, things, and once again, a program is the actual vehicle through which you deliver on your organization's mission into the community. So if you are a hunger fighting organization, it could be your meal kitchen, it could be a community garden, it could be any sorts of things that help combat hunger. So you're looking at your programming and you're thinking to yourself, are there any opportunities here where you might be able to charge a reasonable fee for delivering this program to a target audience that can afford it and would be willing to pay for it? They find value in this, it's worth paying for them. And doing so in a way that wouldn't harm the constituents that you're serving who wouldn't be able to pay for it. So build in that revenue model to your existing or planned future programming. That is a very simple way of making sure that whatever earned income ideas you come up with are automatically going to align with your nonprofit's public serving mission. Because as we talked about in the last video, you can't just come up with any random product or service to sell as an earned income model. It has to be something that connects to and aligns with your mission. Because if it's not, at least in the United States, the IRS could say your nonprofit is conducting unrelated business activities not related to your mission. And as a result, we're going to charge you taxes and penalties for that. So if you want to make sure that you aren't in trouble with the IRS, you've got to make sure that your earned income strategy is fully aligning with your mission. Let's talk through just one example of this so you can kind of see what I'm talking about coming to life. So for example, I mentioned a hunger fighting or food insecurity combating nonprofit organization. That's that organization's mission. Perhaps they're already doing some things to this effect. They've got their meal kitchen, they're doing meal drop-offs, whatever it may be. But one idea that they have on their wish list is to start a community garden. Well, this might be an opportunity for an earned income model if, for example, they choose to sell a portion of the produce created by that garden to local restaurants to cover the costs of that program and perhaps subsidize the cost of some of their other programming too. And then of course they're giving away the rest of the produce to their constituents that they need to serve who wouldn't be able to afford to pay for it. So everyone gets help and the nonprofit is able to bring in hopefully some consistent funding that can supplement the rest of their fundraising. So you want to think in those terms, and your next step in this process is to generate at least 3 to 5 different ideas that you can explore further and do some further pricing analysis on and fundraising analysis on. And once you have developed those ideas, you want to then take a look at your organization's leadership and their skills and competencies, because you might have a great idea, but of course it takes human beings to execute on these ideas and make them successful. So you want to make sure that the people you have on your team are the people who have the right skill sets to execute on the idea that you all land on. So you would take your list of ideas, you would then match it against the competencies and skills of your team, and of course considering other factors like, is one idea going to be much more expensive and difficult to implement than other ideas? And from there, hopefully you'd be able to land on an idea that you'd be able to try out. I do go into this a bit more in depth in my Find and Grow Your Funding online course on my website, foundertofulltime.com, if you want to go deeper on this topic. Okay, so once you've narrowed your list of ideas down to hopefully 1, maybe 2 really, really solid ideas, you want to start building an actual business plan around the earned income model itself. And this is something that's separate from your nonprofit's business plan because, like I said before, an earned income strategy is kind of like running a miniature business inside your nonprofit. So in this business plan, you're going to want to include all the typical things that you might find in a business plan, like your products or services description, identifying who your target audience is, because you don't have to sell your products or service to everyone in the whole community or the whole public. Maybe it's specifically targeting small or large businesses or people who have dogs. You know, it could be any sort of target audience that's going to be the best fit for your earned income idea. Pricing, so what you think the market would pay for your product or service, that would be a reasonable, fair fee. Your financial projections, you know, what costs you need to invest up front in order to get it running, all sorts of things. And it's really important that you're also thinking of this in terms of how it's going to either be separate from or connect with your other fundraising efforts as an organization. Because I want to clarify that an earned income model is not intended to bring in 100% of the funds that your nonprofit needs throughout the whole year. It's only supposed to bring in a portion of those funds. It's supposed to supplement and subsidize the rest of your fundraising efforts. As a nonprofit organization in the United States, if you're a 501c3, you are expected to bring in a certain amount of your annual budget through donations and grants and stuff like that. So you can't completely rely on this earned income model to bring in all of the money that you need. So be thinking about that as you go. Secondly, as I mentioned, you might need some startup funding to get things going. So thinking through what those things are. Do you need a staff person to manage the earned income program? And if so, what types of skills do they need? What is a fair salary? So looking at compensation analyses on people who have that kind of job. What is a fair salary for that position? Do you need special equipment? Do you need a marketing budget to get things up and running and let the community know that it exists, et cetera, et cetera. So putting together that budget to really account for those startup costs and also your ongoing costs for the earned income model. The fourth step in this whole process is something you can do before your business plan is completely finalized, and that is to do a small pilot test of your earned income idea. One way you might do this is by doing just a short campaign where you're trying it out, or maybe a one-time event. If it's something like selling a product, you could see how people respond to the product, if they like it, how they seem to react to whatever pricing you've placed on it, etc. So doing that really small scale pilot test can be a really helpful way to think through what are some of the challenges or problems that could arise if you did this ongoing. And also, assuming you have positive results to your small pilot test, this is a really helpful piece of information that you can put in your business plan to finalize it. Any customer feedback, questions that kept coming up over and over again from customers will indicate to you the types of things that might be confusing to them that you might want to clarify. So using this pilot test as a way to really refine and instill confidence in your team about the idea. Step 5 to getting your earned income model up and running is you've got to get that startup funding for this. Your organization might be in a strong enough financial position already to just invest some of the excess funding you have into getting this started, knowing that it's going to grow and have a great return on investment soon enough. But if you're just starting out, or maybe your nonprofit is not in that kind of position, you will need to probably secure some kind of startup funding to get things going. I mentioned some possible expenses before, and this really could vary based on what exactly you are doing for your earned income strategy. The cost to start up could be very low, or they could be quite high. It really depends on what you're doing. So regardless, you might need to raise some of the startup funding, and you can do this in a number of ways, just like you would through the rest of your fundraising efforts as a nonprofit. You could ask donors to support it. You could seek sponsorships and partnerships to help bring in some of that startup funding. You could, in this case, I think there might be a great argument for a grant here, because a lot of funders love to see that the money they invest one time is going to grow into ongoing support for a nonprofit. So you might be able to secure a grant to launch your earned income model that will then have a great return on investment. You'll be able to show that funder later, hey, look, we took your $10,000 and turned it into an ongoing $50,000 for the organization every single year, for example. So definitely check out opportunities along those lines for that align with your organization's mission and issue area. You'd be surprised. I think a lot of business-minded funders are interested in opportunities to support like this because it has such a long-term ripple effect on the mission. The sixth and final step I'm going to talk about here today is getting it up and running and then evaluating how it's going and thinking about how you might scale and grow it over time. So it's time to launch at this phase. You've got your initial startup funding, you've got your business plan, you've identified the skills of your leadership who are going to help with getting it off the ground. You have done your market research, you've done all this stuff, and it's time to launch. So you can launch small. So you have already done your pilot test. You can build on that idea. Now, instead of hosting a one-time event to try it out, maybe it's a monthly event where you're selling your products or services. Maybe it's an ongoing thing that doesn't have specific dates attached to it for the community. It can take a number of formats. So you have launched this and you are starting to collect data. You're collecting data on the amount of money that you're able to raise compared to what it costs you to run this month to month, quarter to quarter, across your annual budget. You are collecting data on your customers' feedback. What do they think about it? Are there ways that they think the product or service could improve so that you could sell even more and grow even further? Are there opportunities to scale and grow connected to partnering with other organizations? For example, let's say you are doing the community garden thing that we talked about before, and you're already selling your produce to restaurants, but your food bank down the street has said that they really need a new vendor for vegetables, and you have the vegetables that they want. Maybe you could be their new supplier and they could pay you a discounted rate for those vegetables, saving them money anyways, because many food banks might have to buy some of that produce from the grocery store or other sources anyway if they can't get it donated. So partnerships like that can expand the reach of your earned income model, bring in more money for your cause, and then of course help supplement the costs of running your organization. All right, I am through the launch list. I would love to hear what you think now. Between the last video and this one, do you feel like earned income is the right strategy for you? Please share what you're thinking in the comments, your ideas, any questions you have. I'm sure the community here would love to jump in and help you out. So once again, I hope this was helpful to you. As I mentioned before, if you're starting a nonprofit or in the process of developing a sustainable fundraising plan, possibly to include an earned income strategy, check out my online courses at foundertofulltime.com. They can help talk you through all the steps and help get you started there. I also have a newsletter for nonprofit leaders and change makers. You can find the link to that below and subscribe and opt out anytime you need. I'll share tips and resources and sometimes funding opportunities that I come across in those newsletters. And finally, if you're on Facebook, I have a group called Change the World or Bust, where we've got now, I think 4,500 or some awesome amount of people from all over the world who are just trying to make a difference and are looking to each other for guidance and support on their change-making journey. So I hope that you can join us in that group as well. Once again, I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I hope that you found this helpful. I'll see you later. Bye.